welcome to Running with Rainbows July class. This month's class is the Icelandic landscape collage class inspired by artist Juliana Sveinsdottir from Iceland. So here we are just seeing some quick photos inspired by my own trip to Iceland way back in the year 2000 while my sister was graduating from university there. I had such a wonderful time, and the landscape is just so unique that it definitely made an impression. So I'm excited to share this class with you today. It's also Icelandic National Day in June on the 17th, and in Manitoba, August long weekend, we celebrate the Íslandsdagurinn, or the Icelandic Festival. So here is a beautiful example of the sky and the blues that are prevalent in the Icelandic landscape. It is, of course, an island, but the Icelandic palette that developed when it gained its independence in the early part of the 20th century definitely was renowned for its blue base. So Juliana was no exception. She was one of the early female painters in Iceland after they had gained their independence. So Icelanders were very much preoccupied with reimagining and re-representing themselves and their landscape through the lens of their own choosing instead of through their colonial occupation. So here is some art by Juliana. There's some in the body of the text here as well in Substack for you to look at, but please feel free to Google. As you can see, it's a very simple palette of blues, greens, grays, and browns. So we will not have a problem creating collage fodder in those colors, but you can always break from tradition and create these landscapes in any color tones you wish if you like the idea of just being able to use some of your collage ephemera up. And this is a fun class to do so. So here I'm showing you what you can use. If you already have a collage ephemera, you may not need to do this step, but if you're creating the palette from scratch like me, I'm using some exercise paper from a recycled elementary school booklet. I've got some photocopied sheet music. I've got rice paper, tissue paper with paint on it. You will need acrylic paint in brown, green, blue, yellow, at least, and white. Otherwise, feel free to expand and choose any variety of those colors that you wish. I will demonstrate quickly in a sped up motion how to get the paint through your jelly plate onto your paper, and then I will also walk you through how to combine them to create your landscape. So landscapes are very simple. There's a foreground, a background, and a midground. So the way you apply it is background, midground, foreground, right? So the backdrop is always first. Again, it can be any collage ephemera that you may have on hand. Here are some that we're going to make today, but I want to impart to you as well that you can use what you already have. I'm definitely into upcycling and using stuff that you already have instead of creating new stuff when you probably got something you can use. And it's okay to change the color of something you may have already. So take a chaos layer or something that you've already started and has some color on, and then as we go through it today, you'll see that you can change the sort of tone or feel of that look by adding more colors and even a pattern through using paper towel. So here I've got the blue background with my midground being the ground or the earth itself in the brown tones, and in the foreground I had some yellow and green. So very simple way to execute a landscape. Give the whole video a watch first, and then it's easier for you to make a backtrack to your own collage ephemera collection with an eye for what colors you're using. Now I ran out of matte medium today, so I'm going to embrace the matte Mod Podge and see how that goes. Aside from having a bit of a funny odor, it wasn't too bad. And we're going to be using a paintbrush to avoid getting a ton of it on our fingers. But with any collage, one thing I want to remind you of is that you make sure you put your collage medium on the back of your collage piece as well as on the surface you plan to marry it to. More is definitely better when it comes to matte medium and collage. And I also want to suggest that you let go of being too worried about air bubbles and just enjoy the process. So here I'm going to use a chaos layer that has acrylic paint in a blue wash, and I had done some prints with some seaweeds next to the lake a couple of years ago in green and never ended up using them, so they're going to be perfect for today's background. Here I'm playing with different elements and papers, so I've got a bit of an iceberg mountain type of shape because in the Icelandic landscape that's definitely something that is so prevalent, is this beautiful glacier cut mountain ranges that just blow the mind when you're standing at how big everything seems on such a small island on the map. So here I am marrying, as I said, using quite a bit of collage medium. I want it all to stick really well, and even if there does end up being little air bubbles, if there's enough medium underneath, as you work through it with your brush later, it can smooth itself underneath with you pushing on top, and it will help reflatten pieces out. And don't be afraid to use the surface itself and apply your collage medium on one side and then flip it over. There's so much of it on the paper, it's not a bad thing to do. So here I'm doing the mid-ground, and I've gone in with a strip of my collage ephemera that I did in the brown tones. And now I'm going in with a piece that was done on the exercise paper, and I had actually created texture by laying on paper towel with paint. So I will show that after we get this demonstration done. I'm going to break down a little bit of how I created the collage ephemera itself, but I just wanted to show you how quick and easy this class is. So I definitely recommend you grab your bin of ripped up paper and sit down for an afternoon and just have some fun with music or its favorite TV show, and layering in your background, midground, and foreground without really observing too harshly or critiquing yourself. Just kind of go with your flow, and then a couple of days later come back to your session and have a look at it with fresh eyes. I think you will be really surprised about how much magic is actually there. It's just when we're working on stuff, we get into our design brain, and that can really change how we look at a piece. So you've got to give yourself time to come back to it and really see it, instead of rushing to finish a complete piece. I mean, all the classes with Running with Rainbows are from start to finish, but you can always go on top of them for other classes. So mixed media, but with a certain amount of control so that the mediums work well together. We're not using wax crayons or anything that isn't able to be layered. And that's how all of this collage ephemera that I had already created is such a wonderful, valuable resource for a sustainable studio, because it pre-exists, it's in materials and substances I know play well together, so I'm not worried about the longevity of any particular piece. So here's the variety that I created using the collage ephemera from today's class, and for 4 colors or 5 colors, there's quite a spread, so don't feel limited by trying a limited palette. So here on my jelly plate, I'm using my mini brayer, and I've got a white gesso base already just sort of slathered on, and I've gone in with a russet red acrylic paint, and I'm going to take a piece of, I believe it is an old story I wrote back when I had a typewriter, dating myself a little bit there, but it's perfect to keep it personal. And that's the one thing I was so excited about doing with this landscape class. In the simplicity that is the landscape, you can bring collage ephemera that has so much meaning for you. And for me, the story that I'm using here had a very Icelandic spin on some of the fantasy. It was a whole fantasy world, like Lord of the Rings style epic that went nowhere, but it is now a part of art of mine, and I am super excited about that. So here is the paper towel that I used to create sort of a texture on some of the collage, and I ended up collaging with the paper towel. It's encased in the acrylic medium, so it's basically as longevity or as long lasting as the paper. Here you can see I created a bit of a blue and white stripe on top of some text. Again, perfect for collage ephemera. Can be used in so many different ways besides just today's class. And I mean, sheet music is always perfect for collage ephemera. I'm a little bit of a junkie for it. But it serves its purpose well, and it lends itself beautifully to many different ways. So hang on to it too. We'll do more collage going forward in 2025 as part of the sustainability here at Running with Rainbows. I don't want you to always have to run out and buy new things. So here I've put some pre-painted rice paper that had a very light wash of pink on it. I'm using the paper towels that I've been using to just kind of create that texture on it so that the paint doesn't just completely go through my hands. And it also creates a little bit of texture on the pink tissue paper, which is great. We're not looking for wildflowers with any kind of detail. They can dot the landscape in sort of an abstract form, which is perfect for what we're working on. I hope you guys have had fun today, and that you get out and you create some awesome collage ephemera to use for yourselves this summer. If you do the class today, I hope you tag me here on Substack at Running with Rainbows, or you can DM it to me directly. Take care. See you in August.